Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
John felt an unusual excitement that morning. The house would finally be quiet, something that had seemed impossible in recent years with the daily hustle of the kids and family routine. Rachel was excited about the trip to the beach with the children, and John, despite loving his family, couldn't suppress a subtle smile as he imagined how productive he could be without interruptions. With farewell kisses and backpacks in the car, he stood at the door, waving as the sound of the engine faded away, leaving behind a rare emptiness. A welcome emptiness. Shortly after, while mentally organizing his to-do list, John heard the gate open. It was Adam, his talkative neighbor with always innovative ideas. "John, how's the piece treating you?" Adam asked, leaning on the fence that separated the backyards. They exchanged a few words, and the conversation ended up revolving around home security. Adam mentioned how he had recently installed cameras himself and talked about the benefits. "Man, you never know. It gives you a sense of security, you know? And it's not as expensive these days," he argued. John initially shook his head with a smile. Cameras? It seemed like overkill. But as Adam continued talking, something began to make sense. It was true, he was out of the house for many hours, and the idea of knowing what was happening while he wasn't there didn't seem so absurd. The conversation ended with Adam offering help if he decided to install something. "Let me know if you change your mind, call me. I'll show you how I did it at my place," the neighbor said before waving goodbye. Back in the living room, John sat down for a moment, staring at the turned-off TV, but his mind was elsewhere. He remembered stories he had heard about break-ins, missing items, people discovering unusual situations in their own homes. "It doesn't hurt to take a look," he muttered to himself, opening his laptop and researching home security systems. In a few minutes, he found a basic kit with cameras that seemed easy to install and, more importantly, were within budget. The idea, which had once seemed just a distant suggestion, was now becoming an almost inexplicable urgency. He had no real reason to suspect anything, but a sense of precaution was growing in his chest. That same afternoon, he drove to a store and came back with boxes containing the cameras. It was a project he could finish before the end of the day, he thought, and the feeling of completing something productive was exactly what he needed at that moment. With a ladder propped against the side of the house and the instructions in hand, John spent the next few hours installing the cameras. He positioned them strategically: the main entrance, the side hallway, and the back door. The process was simple but meticulous. With each adjustment, he checked the angle, imagining how the footage would look. As he connected everything to the monitoring system on his phone, he felt a mix of accomplishment and satisfaction. He had finally done something for the house that wasn't on Rachel's endless list. When he finished, the sun was already setting, and the house was enveloped in absolute silence. He looked around, soaking in the tranquility. The system was working perfectly, and he knew he wouldn't mention anything to Rachel. Not because he wanted to hide it, but because he considered it a practical decision, without the need for discussions. With everything set up, John grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat down on the couch, and allowed himself to relax. It was just the beginning of a period of peace he didn't even know was about to end. Days passed quickly, and the family routine soon took control of the house again. The noise of the children, the TV on, and the endless conversations between Rachel and John filled the previously so quiet spaces once more. John watched everything with a new perspective, still carrying that strange satisfaction of having installed the camera system. It was something he had practically forgotten after the first few nights, but occasional curiosity about how the images appeared on the app installed on his phone led him to open the program. One quiet night, while Rachel was reading a book in the bedroom and the children were already asleep, John decided to review the recordings for the first time. It was more for fun than out of necessity, almost like trying out a new feature on a device. The footage captured by the devices showed only everyday scenes: the mailman delivering mail, the neighbor's dog sniffing near the back door, and a delivery person bringing a package John didn't even remember ordering. Everything seemed just as it should be. Until, when going through the recordings from the previous week, something unusual caught his attention. In the video of the side entrance of the house, the camera captured an unknown man entering. He was alone, unhurried, and acted as if he knew exactly where to go. John paused the video and zoomed in on the image on his phone, trying to identify the stranger's face, but the recording was slightly blurry. His mind began to search for explanations. Maybe it was a technician Rachel had called, someone to fix something in the house while he wasn't there. Still, it bothered him. That night, he couldn't sleep properly. He didn't want to seem paranoid, but there was something strange about the naturalness of that man on his property. The next day, while Rachel was getting the kids ready for school, John decided to investigate further. He reviewed other recordings, now with greater attention. To his surprise, he found the same man in other videos, captured on different days. Always entering through the same side door, always at the same time, between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. John's discomfort grew with each new discovery. Who was that man? Why was he entering his house repeatedly? Why had no one mentioned anything? Determined not to jump to conclusions, he began to watch Rachel more closely. She seemed absolutely normal, busy with the rush of the family routine. John struggled to reconcile the idea that something was wrong with the apparent reality of his life. In the following days, he installed more cameras, covering other angles of the house, including the entrance to the master bedroom and the internal hallways. The tranquility he once felt was replaced by increasing unease. Something was out of place, but he still didn't know exactly what. He knew he needed to expand the surveillance if he wanted to understand the full truth. Driven by a cold determination, he installed 2 more cameras, one strategically placed inside the house, covering the hallway leading to the master bedroom, and another pointing directly at the bedroom door. He did this during the early morning hours, in secret, while Rachel was asleep. When he finished, he felt the weight of his decision. Until that moment, everything could have been just a figment of his imagination, but now he had the feeling that he was about to discover something that would change his life forever. And, unfortunately, he was right. It was on an ordinary afternoon, while John was at work, that the motion alert on the app went off. He was in a meeting when he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. Out of habit, he discreetly slid his phone out and saw the notification from the camera installed at the side door. For a moment, he thought about ignoring it. After all, it could be the mailman or some common movement. But something made him open the app. What he saw made his heart stop. Rachel was at the side door. The camera clearly captured her expression as she looked around, as if making sure no one was watching her. Then, she opened the door, and the man John had been seeing in the previous recordings entered. But this time, the scene was different. The two didn't just meet, they kissed. It wasn't a casual greeting or a discreet gesture. It was an intense kiss, full of intimacy. John felt his stomach churn. He was there, in the middle of work, trying to keep his composure while a part of his life was falling apart in real time. With his headphones still around his neck, he pretended to pay attention in the meeting, but his eyes were fixed on the phone screen. The following footage showed Rachel guiding the man into the house. They walked up the stairs, calmly heading towards the master bedroom. John didn't need to see anything else to know what it meant. It was always at the same time, he thought, as the knot in his throat tightened. The pattern repeated itself. She knew exactly when he would be out, when the kids would be at school. It was calculated. He tried to remember all the moments from the past few months, looking for any sign, any clue he might have ignored. Nothing came to mind. Rachel had always seemed so normal. As if nothing was happening. But then another idea sparked like a flame in the darkness: Adam. The neighbor who suggested installing the cameras. Why would he bring that up out of nowhere? Could Adam have known? Had he seen the man entering the house and decided to suggest the cameras as a way to alert him without getting directly involved? The possibility left John even more tormented. Could other people have known about the affair before him? Was he the only one blind in this story? John hung up the phone and felt the weight of the truth crushing him. He wanted to get up, leave that meeting, run home, and confront Rachel right then and there. But he knew it wasn't the moment. He needed to think clearly, gather his strength, and decide what to do next. The footage was recorded, and the truth, though cruel, was now impossible to ignore. John could barely finish the workday. Every minute felt like an unbearable burden as the images of Rachel and the man played in his head. As soon as he got home that night, he tried to maintain an appearance of normalcy. Rachel was in the kitchen preparing dinner, and the familiar smell of spices filled the room. She smiled at him, as if everything was perfectly in place. "How was your day?" she asked naturally, as if hiding nothing. John responded with a murmur, his mind still in the chaos unfolding internally. He realized how skilled Rachel was at hiding her secret life. Every gesture, every word she spoke seemed so genuine that, for a moment, he wondered if he had made a mistake, if the recordings could be explained another way. But he knew they couldn't. What he saw was too clear, too painful. The next morning, John decided it was time to act. But he couldn't be impulsive. He needed more information before confronting Rachel. During breakfast, while Rachel was distracted with the kids, John pretended to check his phone but was actually digging deeper into the man's identity. He reviewed details in the recordings, the car model, the partially visible license plate. Those fragments could lead to something bigger. Later, while alone in his home office, John used the information to find out the stranger's identity. It was a slow process, but the result shocked him deeply. The man was Dr. Matthew Collins, a renowned gynecologist in town. A name known to everyone, including Rachel, who had casually mentioned him in conversations about friends and appointments. It was as if everything had a dark purpose, a hidden pattern he couldn't ignore. It wasn't just an affair, it was an affair with someone who was supposed to symbolize trust and professionalism. John felt the weight of the revelation like a punch in the stomach. He knew this discovery was just the beginning, that there was much more behind that man and his connection with Rachel. The next day, Rachel was on the couch when the phone rang. It was her best friend, Emily. Her voice was urgent, almost desperate. "Rachel, did you see? It's everywhere," Emily said, not leaving room for explanations. Confused, Rachel asked, "What's happening? What are you talking about?" But the response came with the sound of muffled crying on the other end. "You need to look now. It's about you, and Dr. Collins." Rachel's heart raced. She hung up without saying anything else and quickly grabbed her phone. With trembling hands, she opened social media, and there it was. The video. The footage of her and the doctor, captured by John's cameras, was everywhere, accompanied by a devastating caption, "Be careful, your wife might be going to this doctor too." The recording showed every detail, the kiss at the door, the embrace, and both entering the house. Within hours, the video had gone viral, with thousands of views, comments, and shares. Rachel's phone started ringing again, but now messages were pouring in one after another. Colleagues, friends, family members. Each notification was like a sharp knife cutting what was left of her dignity. She felt the ground open up beneath her feet, and tears streamed down before she could fully process the situation. Without thinking twice, she went upstairs and went straight to the office where John was. He was sitting in the chair, staring intently at the monitor. Hearing Rachel's hurried footsteps, he didn't even move. He knew that moment would come. "Did you film me?" Her voice trembled, a mix of anger and despair. "You posted it?" "John, what did you do?" John stood up slowly, his face cold, without any trace of regret. "What I did, Rachel." He took a step forward, staring at her. I protected myself. I protected our family from the lie you created. What did you expect? That I'd find out all this and stay silent? While you brought another man into my house?" Rachel began to cry, sobbing uncontrollably. "You had no right to expose this to the world. You destroyed my life, my reputation, everything." "I destroyed?" John laughed bitterly, a sound full of pain. "You destroyed it yourself, Rachel. Every time you opened that door for him. Every time you looked me in the eye and lied. You destroyed yourself." He took a deep breath, trying to maintain control while his own feelings were boiling. "And you know what's worse? It wasn't just with me. He has a family, Rachel. Kids. Did you realize what you were doing? Or didn't that matter either?" Rachel tried to justify herself, but her words came out disconnected. I don't know what happened. It was a mistake, John. I never meant to hurt you. I don't even know how things got to this point." She grabbed his arm, pleading. "Please, delete the video. I'll fix this. Don't let this destroy our family." But John pulled away from her grip. "Our family? Rachel, you already destroyed that. This video, it's not just about what you did to me. It's a warning to anyone who trusts people like him. And honestly, I don't care anymore what happens to him. Or to you." Rachel stayed silent, paralyzed. She knew there was no way to turn back. The betrayal was already public, and the consequences were just beginning. As she sank into despair, John felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. He knew the marriage was over, but for the first time in weeks, he felt he had control over the situation. That night, Rachel received another call, this time from Dr. Collins himself. His voice was filled with panic. "Rachel, you need to control this. My wife saw the video. My kids, my career could be ruined because of this." But Rachel had no answers. She knew there was nothing more that could be done. The damage was done, and now both would have to face the consequences of their choices. After that tense night, John made an irrevocable decision. The next morning, he called Rachel to the living room. His voice was firm but devoid of emotion. "You can't stay here anymore, Rachel. Not after all this. It's better if you go to your mother's house while we work out the divorce." Rachel tried to argue, but she knew there was no room for negotiation. John's look was stone-faced, and the atmosphere in the house was already unbearable. With tears streaming down her face, she hurriedly packed a suitcase and left without even being able to look into the children's eyes. They watched her through the window, silent, but the mix of shame and disappointment was evident. The days that followed were tough. The teenage children began avoiding social media, but even then, they couldn't escape the comments and stares at school. Friends whispered about the scandal involving their mother, and even teachers showed uncomfortable compassion. "Why did she do that, Dad?" the oldest asked one night when the pain of humiliation became unbearable. John had no answer. He could only hug them and promise that things would get better with time. Meanwhile, Rachel faced her own storm. At her mother's house, she felt the weight of her choice with every disappointed look or awkward silence. Her mother, though loving, didn't hide her disappointment. "I raised you to be better than this, Rachel," she said one night as they tried to have dinner amid the heavy atmosphere. Time passed. The divorce was finalized a few months later, and John was granted full custody of the children. They decided to stay in the family home, but Rachel's presence was removed from everything, from photos to objects that held shared memories. John dedicated himself to creating a safe and stable environment for the kids, helping them rebuild their lives away from the scandal. Meanwhile, Dr. Matthew Collins's life rapidly fell apart. The video going viral destroyed his reputation. Patients canceled appointments, and his once renowned clinic was empty. His wife filed for divorce, taking the children with her, and he was forced to move to another city in an attempt to start over. But the mark of his betrayal followed him, and he never regained the prestige he once had. Rachel, now divorced, tried to reconnect with her children, but they were hesitant. The shame they felt at school, the uncomfortable questions, and the judging looks had created a difficult barrier to overcome. They visited her occasionally, but the conversations were superficial and brief. Years later, John sat on his porch, watching the sunset with a slight smile on his face. Life, despite all the turbulence, had stabilized. His children grew up, overcoming their difficulties, and he himself found new peace. It wasn't just about surviving the chaos, but about reinventing himself and growing stronger. Rachel continued living with her mother, leading a simple life away from her children. Although she tried to find redemption, the choices of the past still echoed. Dr. Collins, on the other hand, disappeared from the public eye, his attempts to restart buried by the shadow of what he had done. John, now at peace, realized that the pain of the past had taught him something valuable, the importance of living truthfully and protecting what truly matters. He had rebuilt his family, not with perfection, but with love and resilience. As the sun set, he thought, life goes on. It always does. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.